This is Laika's amazing Coraline. Arguably the definitive movie of Aardman's evil gothic cousin, Coraline is an all-time animated classic, right? Having just been contracted to produce Corpse Bride with Tim Burton, Coraline was the studio's first standalone movie, and boy did they start out strong. Directed by Henry Selick, the actual director of Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, you can trace the DNA of Coraline back to both that movie and Corpse Bride. But Coraline was also the point that Laika took those initial stepping stones and did something tonally quite different with it. Whereas those first two movies used gothic horror iconography in otherwise fun and wacky stories, Coraline is essentially a full-on fantasy horror movie. I mean, when it released in 2009, it was probably the darkest movie for most kids at the time, and I avoided it for years and years. It was just unlike anything else that animation was offering at the time, and has a passionate fan base until this day. Just last year, they re-released it for its 15th anniversary, and it made over $50 million. Again, bear in mind, its original release only made $185 million. It is an enduring dark classic, and a horror for almost all ages. Almost. Please don't show it to a 4-year-old. They'll spend years worried that their mum's secretly a spider demon. But what is it about this movie that makes it so special? Well, that's what we're going to be breaking down today. And the movie begins with essentially the big reveal in plain sight. The first shots we see in the opening credits are the beldam's wiry hands assembling a doll of Coraline, basically displaying the whole plot in front of us. It's a really clever way to open the movie, immediately setting up the story whilst also establishing that sinister and creepy tone before we head to Coraline's status quo. Right up to sending the doll out of the window, the atmosphere is already haunting. Over to the movie's namesake herself, Coraline.
Hello?
And we meet her in a world that she herself has only just moved to, desaturated in its design, which, as a guy from England, just looks like a normal day. You can't see it, but there's just rain pattering on the window out there. Welcome to the end of the year. The color palette is dreary, with the exception of Coraline herself, with her blue and yellow jacket. I'm wearing the wrong colors today. She stands out in this otherwise bleakly colored world and its inhabitants, which is refreshing when typically a young character with an attitude is typically portrayed with the desaturated gothic look instead. Here, that's completely reversed. But despite its desaturated look, the detail of these sets is just immense. It's that two-wave experience of appreciating these incredible visuals and then reminding yourself that a team of artists physically made all of this. Which, when you look at how thin and fragile these features look, just gets more and more impressive. This is physical art. We follow her wander through this moody woodland alongside this regurgitated looking cat, who proves quite important as we go on.
Not talking, huh?
Just making a note of that line for no particular reason. Even just details like Coraline's hair and coat blowing in the wind immediately locks you into the level of animation going on here. It's not something you'd immediately notice casually watching it, but all informs the overall believability of this as a living, breathing world. And as we're introduced to another character, in YB, it's interesting that the introductions of both the cat and then him are both done as false scares, only for them to turn out to be fine. Kind of a reverse of what's to come.
He's not really my cat. He's kind of feral. You know, wild.
Unlike the cat, YB talks quite a lot. Again, making a note of that for no particular reason. You gotta love the way this movie is one of those ones where every line early on informs something later on as well. It's just so well tied together. Anyway, YB just gives me Timothée Chalamet vibes. I don't know why. And it's here we start to get details that are more apparent on rewatch, as YB's surprised that Coraline's family's moved into the Pink Palace property.
My grandma, she owns the Pink Palace. Won't rent to people with kids.
Capping it off with that he's not supposed to talk about it. Immediately efficient storytelling, removing any opportunity for this setting to feel safe or comfortable. Love that. Not that Coraline's making that her business. Her distrust in anyone being self-evident, making what's to come all the more interesting.
Grandma.
From this scene, we have a very pleasant transition to Coraline's new house, giving us a much more modern and sanitized look in the kitchen than the gothic world outside, giving us the sense that Coraline's family have in some way come from our world, right down to the mum working under the benign glow of a modern laptop. The bland, tidy order of the room echoing Mum's character, only accentuated in this next line.
No, Coraline, rain makes mud. Mud makes a mess.
Having had a road accident that's left her in a neck brace, her mum comes across as moody and impatient. A work-first kind of figure, but also weirdly, when you watch it as an adult, you can kind of sympathize for the normal parents more, because this is clearly a stressful time in their lives. Moving, and with an injury like that, I'm not surprised they're moody. Though it's not exactly black and white, since she's not even trying to hide the fact that she's making time for Coraline, she just outright says it.
I don't have time for you right now, and you still have unpacking to do.
Obviously, the story is looking to create a scenario where an alternative mother would seem more appealing. However, they find a good balance, I think, here of a modern laptop-shackled workaholic character with flaws and pains that a modern audience can also recognize. I mean, this shot of the dad famously became the face of memes related to screen-based work culture for a reason. He is me whenever the camera's off, I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, Dad. How's the writing going?
It's believable that these mum and dad characters exist and also feel like a product of their time. Even more so since the pandemic escalated work from home lifestyles even further, blurring that line in work-life balance. And it's even more perfect that they're both working on the same gardening catalog, but clearly haven't engaged with the actual gardening for a while as their work has just kept them inside instead. Even the dad asking, "What did the boss say?" in reference to the mum. You get so much insight on their relationship whilst in different rooms. The fact that they're introduced separately also feeling very deliberate. Again, these versions anyway. And just before we have that brief appearance of depressed dad, this moment happens.
Look what I found in Grandma's trunk.
A little me?
Linking us back to that opening sequence, in turn creating tension from the fact we know the wiry hands that doll came from. Unable to get the attention of her mum or dad, Coraline's left to explore the new house alone.
One boring blue boy.
Followed by a particularly well-framed beat as we look on at Coraline from what looks to be the perspective of someone watching her. Only for it to reveal that it's from the perspective of the doll that has moved. I love this stuff. Leading us to the reveal of the door.
Huh?
And whilst as the audience who've seen the opening sequence, we're all thinking, oh, absolutely not, you can absolutely get why there's nothing more enticing to a kid than finding a secret hidden door under all this buggly wallpaper.
Hey, Mom! Where does this door go?
And surprisingly, her mum does actually help her. Though it's clearly a case of spending time with Coraline is an obstacle for my work, rather than the other way around.
Will you stop pestering me if I do this for you?
And note how in the first half of this movie, we never see at least this version of Mum smile. I'm sure that there are a lot of work from home parents who can relate to her character, but clearly the fact is that there is some issue in this relationship. To the extent that even stepping away from her laptop for a couple of minutes to open a door is a chore to her. And there's a couple ways you can look at it, as, to be fair, they are likely stressed as hell coming up to the deadline with this catalogue, on top of the road accident as well, on top of moving. And in amongst that, they have at least made some time for her. But her mum in particular takes a lot of that stress out in her attitude towards Coraline. You know, it's not a clear line of who's in the wrong here especially, which I really like. It just captures that ambiguity of real family dynamics. Whilst this moment escalates the story and overall mystery further, there's no pause in the simultaneous character work happening here, which in turn is also important to unfolding the story and mystery. A lesser movie would have had these mysteries and characters conflict as separate scenes, but the storytelling here is expertly handled and able to do all of those things at once. And maybe part of this expertly laid out narrative does come from the fact that Coraline was originally a novella, and this is actually an adaptation of a movie, and one from back in 2002. So there's a solid extra 7 years of honing in this storytelling. There's a reason DreamWorks keeps doing adaptations from books nowadays, because it turns out when things are written by actual writers, it turns out better than screenwriters. Or so it seems, anyway, that seems to be the trend. Unfortunately, the original writer of Coraline is Neil Gaiman, who, isn't so much liked anymore now, is he?
I don't get it.
cut to dinner, and this blur of the home being the workplace only grows stronger here, with Mum clearly having a sense of order in how the house is run.
Your dad cooks, I clean, and you stay out of the way.
This scene, again, is just a few lines long, and yet we get everything we need to know from it on the family relationship. It just feels like another scene that would have had less fat trimmed off of it in other movies, and I just love how sharp the storytelling is in this adaptation, since you can assume the book expands it. No seconds wasted, which I think comes with the fact that literally each frame is so much effort for the animators. There's a reason why most of Laika and Aardman's films come far under the 90-minute mark. And as with limitations in general, I think the limitations of this art form is actually a positive for creativity and efficiency. The portal opening happens pretty much bang on 15 minutes in, whereas other movies would have probably padded out at least an extra 5 minutes before this point, if not 25. I mean, there are a lot of terrible movies. Just like the White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland, a mouse guides Coraline down to the now open portal. The portal itself being visually stunning, whilst having that makeup of something fabric that's been sewn together. A big reason why stop motion was the right medium to adapt Coraline into. Considering how much of the story's imagery revolves around sewing, having these visuals with real physical materials, where even the organic characters look artistically crafted because, well, they literally have been, it just works together so well. And considering how consistently creepy this movie manages to be, they do manage to make the portal itself exciting and enchanting. You have to believe that Coraline would willingly go down this portal, and the visuals and music work together to really sell that. It at least has to present itself as nicer than the corridor to hell that it is. Leading us into the other world, in which we see all the bleak lighting and design of the real world pay off. As we enter the new kitchen, the whole room is just so much brighter and warmer. The use of color saturation between the two worlds is often compared to a similarly iconic moment in The Wizard of Oz, just less sinister in that case. But then obviously, there's this.
You're just in time for supper, dear.
I want to say probably the most iconic part of the movie, but at this point, there are several iconic scenes. Everything else seeming initially so welcoming, with this one exception.
You're not my mother. I'm your other mother, silly.
It's what makes Coraline truly great horror, as the horrific elements don't just jump in suddenly. They gradually creep in over time, starting with these simple button eyes. Even this first reveal, there's no harsh note in the score, instead giving off a light but mysterious tone, almost making the whole thing more unsettling, as it's like we're not even mentioning it. Likewise, the other mother's smile. This is why I brought up how we actually don't see Mum smile before this point, giving a sharp contrast to the other mother whose smile is so wide, it just kinda looks wrong.
Well, go on. He's in his study.
As Coraline goes to other father, one parallel to appreciate is how we meet both of them in the same order and same locations as her real parents.
Hello, Coraline.
Not to mention the direct reversals in both visuals and dialogue we've experienced up to this point. We only just heard real Mum say how she doesn't do the cooking. And well, look what she's doing here as a direct response to that. There's also these subtle visual cues, such as her mother's neck brace from the accident instead being a turtleneck jumper on other mother. And by the way, someone actually hand knitted all of these clothes and did so with threads that were finer than a strand of hair, so fair play to them. In the real world, they'll be like cute little baby clothes. In animation, it's nightmare fuel on a horrific evil character.
No need to. This piano plays me.
I like how even in this first scene, we have the other father being moved by another mechanism like a puppet.
Making up a song about Coraline.
And of course, if you look into his lyrics, he's actually half warning her about other mothers' plans.
Eyes will be on Coraline.
The clues are just constantly spilling in, and again, this whole piano sequence is just baffling when considering they had to physically animate this.
Starving, raise your hand. Whoa!
As we go to the dinner scene, the imagery evokes that of the idyllic feast we've seen depicted in many traditional stories. And as you'll find in various breakdowns of this movie, there's a lot of iconography and storytelling choices that stem directly from both ancient folklore and classic stories.
Here comes the gravy train. Choo choo.
Although a literal gravy train is very much its own beast, that I for one would love to see realized as an actual thing. As for another small detail, on the welcome home cake, there's a graphological theory that a double loop in a lowercase o means that the person who wrote it is lying. And notice that such an O is also present in home, suggesting that she's welcome, but absolutely not home.
Home? We've been waiting for you, Coraline.
Once dinner and sinister cake's all done with, Other Mother swoops in with her next move in offering to play in the rain with Coraline.
Hide and seek in the rain.
Again, something her actual mother refused to do. Onto the alternative universe bedroom featuring this rogue character.
What's shaking, baby?
Ugh. Anyway, I think he's foreshadowing the beldam's spider form or something. And the final contrasting act on the shopping list comes when Other Mother heals Coraline's poison oak rash.
Oh. The mud.
Something real mum hadn't even noticed before she'd wrapped in her work. And now waking up the next morning back in her actual room, that is the detail that cements that the other world was an actual thing and not just a dream.
It's gone. My poison oak. It's gone.
Back to the real world burnt out laptop parent, or as we'd know them now, millennials.
Coraline, you only dreamed you ate all that chicken.
I love how you can appreciate the dull, desaturated choices in the real world even more now after seeing the other world to compare it to as well. All of a sudden, you can see how artistically deliberate it all is. And as her dad talks about a rash on his butt, we get more of this relationship dynamic where mum is very much the boss figure.
If the real Charlie Jones wants his pages edited, he better wrap them up ASAP.
Seemingly the one distinct similarity between both mums, as we later discover. As Coraline heads out, she notices mail for the mysterious Bobinski.
Famous jumping mouth circus not ready.
And I just love his character design, that seemingly completely contrasts with the character's actions. From the establishing shot of the Pink Palace earlier, we've constantly seen him stretching athletically around the building, yet he's got a big gut and the thinnest arms and legs out there. Uncanny. But his mice prove insightful.
They are saying, do not go through little door.
I'm sure it's no accident that the mice have this little role here when it comes to holes in walls. That's their whole gig after all. Or maybe I just watched too much Tom and Jerry as a kid. Anyway, let's go to Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders having their little bit of the movie. Iconic British double act. And of course, Jennifer Saunders had her most iconic voice performance as the fairy godmother in Shrek.
Our sweet departed angels. Couldn't bear to part with them.
And yep, they've got a shelf full of their dead dogs. Once again, we continue this theme of stuff being stuffed or preserved. Be that dolls, dead dogs, or whatever. It's also interesting how the whole house is filled with stage performers, you know, people who are still putting up a front with their alter ego. Where we've of course met a literal alter ego already, but as we know, that alter ego also transpires to be a front for a creature very different to what it presents itself as.
You are in terrible danger.
Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe for more amazing movies, because there are a lot of them and we haven't covered those yet. Otherwise, I'll let you get back to the second half of the amazing Coraline.
You are in terrible danger.
We then reunite with YB, looking for slugs with the cat again, where we get more details on the doll.
It's older than Grandma. Old as his house, probably.
In the background, I'm also wondering if that's product placement for Volkswagen there. Though the fact that it's a Beetle car feeds further into the imagery of bugs in a weird way, which we also get here with slugs. And we get our first inkling that Coraline is not the first person to encounter the other world, as YB mentions how his grandma had a sister.
Grandma's sister disappeared. She says she was stolen.
Well, it's been a fine day full of clues, suggesting this whole other world thing may not be a great idea. Let's just...
So thoughtful of you to send this nice cheddar, Coraline.
Oh, okay. I mean, it would be a particularly short movie if she clued in that quickly. It's only 93 minutes as it is, which again is long for a stop-motion animated movie. Anyway, we notice a shift now in Other Mother's sale pitch here, now outright gunning against her real parents.
You mean my other father? Your better father, dear.
Alongside the next upscaling of the sales pitch, with these parents actually having time to do gardening, or as I like to think of it, our cue for one of the best animated sequences in the movie. I can't even begin to imagine how they made this scene, with so many individual moving parts to the smallest level, but I can certainly appreciate the results. Again, with the real world having so little color, the bioluminescence in this scene just stands it out even more.
Daughter in distress.
It has similar qualities to the chocolate garden in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which again seems quite appropriate. And then the icing on the cake is this bird's eye shot.
I can't believe you did this.
Mother said you'd like it.
It's nice to just step back from the story for a moment and just appreciate the feat of animation achieved in this movie. Again, this was Laika's first independently produced movie, and they did not waste their first impression. But of course, it is there to serve the story, and we get more double meaning lines from Other Father somewhat warning her.
Boy, she knows you like the back of her hand.
I also forgot that this and the jumping mice sequence were back to back as well. Well, almost. We've got the terrifying hollow version of YB to meet first.
I thought you'd like him more if he spoke a little less.
Not concerning at all. Coraline certainly doesn't think so, so I guess we're good. Let's watch the show. It's again visually an amazing scene that must have taken ages to complete. Choreographing a legion of little plasticine mice? Yeah, no idea. It's one of those sequences where the effort is on full display.
That was great!
To the next day, and as normal mother takes her to get her new uniform, we have the clues that Coraline has become more taken with the other world.
My other mother would get them.
Maybe she should buy all your clothes.
And interestingly, having been unable to open the door in the morning, it's actually her mum who re-locked it.
Why'd you lock the door?
I found some rat crap.
However, you get a sense of her mum trying to make more of an effort.
You want to come along? You can pick out something you like.
Considering we met her in the midst of this deadline and it's now over, it's becoming clearer and clearer we just met them at a stressful point. We even see some vulnerability from her here in her face.
I promise I'll make it up.
That's what you always say.
It's the first time that Coraline has stood out as the character at fault. Having now been spoiled by the other world, she doesn't even register the shift in her actual mum's attitude. It's sort of a turning point for both of these characters. The seduction of the other world now being at its peak, as there's almost a desperation to Coraline reaching for the key and for the first time entering the other world in the daytime. But notice that it is still nighttime once she's in the other world. Oh yeah, remember her asking about the cat not talking at the start?
No, I'm not the other anything. I'm me.
Yeah, there's the payoff. And once again, a parallel to Alice in Wonderland. The key detail being that this is the same cat and does not have button eyes like everything else in this world. He also mentions how he's been coming to this world for a while. Alas, he is the first big whistleblower on the other mother.
Not like any mother I've ever known.
Well, I'm sure that'll be helpful later. Anyway, let's get this weird burlesque scene out of the way.
Big bottom sea which may bob through the waves.
Honestly, I have no idea why they decided to go this way with it, but there it is.
Oh my god.
One detail to note though is there is painted on white eyes just after Coraline had pointed out the cat's lack of buttons. And of course, as the button-eyed version of their young selves unzip their exterior, it makes all the more sense. A below-the-surface reveal. I wonder if that comes back at some point. Speaking of large features, we have potentially another beldam clue here, with other mother now sporting the Pixar mum build. You know, like the abdomen of a spider. Swiftly followed by other YB's sad expression, knowing what's to come. Because it is time for Coraline's invitation to Button-Eyed Joe Club.
Black is traditional.
And the matter-of-fact tone makes the hit all the more disturbing.
No way! You're not sewing buttons in my eyes!
There's no exclamation to it, it's just, there you go, here's some buttons for your eyes. Other mother also seeming to cotton on to other father's subtle warnings as well.
So sharp you won't feel a thing.
Ow!
And it feels even more sinister that she's at least seeming to give Coraline breathing room to think about it. Like, I'll let you think about whether you want this horrific thing done to you.
Soon you'll see things our way.
Of course, it's not that simple as she goes to bed expecting to wake up in the real world. But nope, not happening this time.
Oh God, I'm still here?
Hearing the piano playing, she confronts a very different looking other father.
Her strength is our strength.
The warnings are now more obvious. An other father looks more like a colourful version of her real dad here. Bags under the eyes, exhausted even. And then this when asking about other Wybie.
He pulled a long face.
And mother didn't like it.
Oh yes, we are fully in the oh no territory now. Thankfully, she finds the cat to guide her through the void.
She only made what she knew would impress you.
And the more abstract the elements of the story kick in. Because at its center, this is a family-friendly, Lovecraftian interdimensional monster. And just like the use of color, it's a real testament to the level of detail in the sets that these void sequences are also so impactful.
Or maybe she just loves something to eat.
And on to another disturbing visual. And probably a good point to recall, real mum calling it rat crap by the wall door earlier. Speaking of foreshadowing, as we re-encounter other mother post-description of her being a dimension-generating predator.
Even the proudest spirit can be broken with love.
Remember me pointing out the fact that the car was a beetle?
They're cocoa beetles from Zanzibar.
And of course, the fact that other mother is eating these insects is very much hinting to forthcoming reveals as well. I love the details of the insect furniture, maintaining the colors of this world but now with a sinister undertone, because things are about to become nasty and we've hit the point where we've done a whole scene breakdown on this as well. So if you want to see our extended breakdown of this scene in particular, come check out the scene that changed Coraline.
You aren't my mother. Apologize.
And it definitely adds tension that this is the first time we see other mother angry after getting all of these horrific clues about her, because that makes this all the more terrifying.
1, 2, 3!
Yes, she's a scary, crooked woman now. In fact, as Coraline is thrown into a pocket dimension prison of sorts, we soon learn her real name is the beldam through...
Don't remember our names.
Dead children. Yay, what a fun movie. But yes, this may well be the darkest point of the movie, as we meet the ghosts of Beldam's previous victims. And their designs are pretty disturbing, right? Particularly the one with the hat holding a permanent scream.
So we let her sew the buttons.
Like, that's all the younger kids crying now. I respect it though, almost giving children more credit in being able to take on these darker stories. The ghost children's parting request being to find their eyes as their souls will be free. And if that wasn't creepy enough for you, we've got crooked mouth Wybie to contend with too.
Wybie?
It's all good though, he's trying to help and get her home because Mum is back on the scene.
Coraline, how dare you disobey your mother?
And it's a nice touch that despite her demonic form, there's no alteration on the voice. She still just sounds like an angry mum. And notice how the once colourful fabric portal is now more like webbing. Again, foreshadowing. As Coraline returns to the real world, her parents aren't in. I mean, she did just disappear for several hours, I'm sure they're just looking out for her, right? But it does create a disconcerting atmosphere with them being absent from the house. There is one guy, though.
You know that old doll I gave you? So, I really need to get that doll.
However, unloading the full elevator pitch on him all at once, he's not so taken by the concept.
That's 'cause you're crazy.
You're the jerkwad that gave me the doll?
No parents, no Wybie, Coraline goes to the old couple who aren't a Zip costume, who give her this MacGuffin for future use.
They're good for bad things sometimes.
No, they're good for lost things.
And it's at this point where Coraline shows her newfound appreciation for her real parents, recreating them with pillows. And her sadness in the voice performance here from Dakota Fanning is particularly strong and sounds authentic to the particular emotional beat it's serving. But it's not as simple as that. No, that cat wakes her up to show her that they're freezing to death in a mirrorverse. Hate it when that happens. And to boot, that Beldam's even made a horrific double dole of them.
She's taken them.
Looks like Coraline has to return to the beldam one last time. Horrifying. And so she has a brief Kevin McAllister setup sequence before returning to the now completely black portal. The cat taking the opportunity to play the hype man of the situation.
She's got a thing for games.
Anyway, time for the climax.
Coraline.
Starting off with more terrifying stick mother content. And it's the small details as we re-enter the other kitchen one last time. The beldam humming as she cooks breakfast, the buttons still on the table, the single bead of sweat descending down Coraline's forehead. She's ready to make a bargain in her last-ditch attempt to save her parents and the children's souls.
I'll stay here with you forever and let you love me. And I'll let you sew buttons into my eyes.
Giving Coraline her first clue, she disappears and leads us back to the garden that seemed so welcoming earlier, now twisted into a force of plants and insects working against her. And don't forget the pumpkin dad, whose sacrifice turning the whole garden grey is actually a gently somber moment.
Bless you, miss.
Next part of this now twisted nightmare world is the old couple's house. The use of the torch in empty theatre being a particularly impactful choice to maintain this eerie atmosphere. Until... And between each defeat and next encounter, the thing that really stands out is the complete lack of score. You just have these breaks of silence in the air, building that dread of an encounter to the next person.
Hurry on, girl.
Speaking of which, as foreshadowed by them crawling into his sleeves earlier,
Hello, Galobushka.
potentially my favorite of the twisted residents is Bobinski being an outfit puppeteered by the rats.
You'll just go home and be bored.
Though I can't help but feel like he sounds like Gru here. Though this technically came out first, so this whole time Gru's the one who sounded like the other world Bobinski. Time to get those lawyers out, Laika. And the rats finally descending out of him is very reminiscent of Henry Selick's previous works with Oogie Boogie. Though I'll take rats in a suit over a sack of bugs any day. Not to mention more classic stories potentially being referenced here, with the cannon-firing rats coming straight out of the Nutcracker. I also love that as time runs out, the moon is being eclipsed by the shape of the button. And as Coraline thinks she's lost, we have our old cat buddy to keep things on track.
I don't like rats at the best of times.
I think this otherwise horrific climax needed some kind of hopeful figure in it just to balance it out.
It looked like you needed this one, however.
Thank you.
And here we go, as the button eclipse is complete. We enter the final boss with another spectacular piece of animation. I'm sure this bit was done with a computer, but it has a welcome hand-drawn looking quality to it. I can totally see why so many people went to see this re-released in 3D specifically. This was the movie that kicked Laika into action for a reason, and it's just such a bold move to make a movie that they know will be marketed to young people and trust that they will embrace the darker moment. The general attitude towards kids is that we should avoid showing them any content that will scare them, when surely there should at least be some license to give them some scares in a more palatable way than just subtly showing them The Exorcist when they're 18. You know? As marked by the re-release, Coraline has become that portal into the cupboard for multiple generations into the horror themes, leaving them with that message of not taking everything at face value, even as it seems better than you currently have. A masterpiece of a movie. So let's now wrap up this story. Time for the final boss of this situation.
You're back, and you brought Vermin with you?
Now fully showing her cracked, bone-like self. Now that's a Lovecraftian interdimensional being, complete with those needle-based hands we saw in the opening credits. Blah.
You know I love you.
It's quite a feat of storytelling as well, really, as this now barely looks anything like how we first met Other Mother beyond black hair and the voice performance. But because they did it over 3 or 4 different stages, it doesn't really seem strange at all. I mean, it does. This is a really strange movie, but we can follow it with that transformation. But despite being faced with the needle-fingered spider demon, Coraline stands her ground, showing a lot of growth from the girl who flinched at everything at the start of the movie.
We aren't finished yet, are we?
And trying to do the old mind games, tricking the beldam to open the door.
You're wrong. You're going to stay here.
Didn't even question being told to open the thing that could put a spanner in the works there. But she does, though it's not going to be that easy, as we have both this incredible, yet also terrifying unraveling of the room as a web. As if this has been the case the entire time. Again, I can see why the 3D is particularly good for this one.
Where are you, selfish rat?
Huh. That line also has a bit of the Wizard of Oz vibe, as does another bit in a moment. And yes, as we get to the final scramble for the portal door, it does get particularly childhood scarring. There's a reason I skipped this for years. I knew already. I could just sense it. Right up to the beldam punching the portal towards the real world, it is intense until that door is locked. And so, finally, it is over.
Coraline, we're home. Mom! Dad!
It is resolution time, which, as I alluded to, also does have a bit of a Wizard of Oz special on us. By which I mean the parents have no concept of what just happened.
You're talking about your garden catalog?
Their relationship rekindled, it just seems all the more clear that this neglect was coming from her parents just having a busy period, which speaks to what a lot of kids experience when their parents have something else monopolizing their time. But it's not all over for our favorite line of corals, as the now freed ghost children let her know in their weird gold chocolate form.
It's the key, miss. The beldam will find it.
And so, alas, one wiry hand pops out to stop Coraline hiding it.
I never gave you sandwiches with grease and worms and mung.
Time for that well from the very start of the movie to make a return so that old Wybie can have his hero moment. And though it initially feels like an extra bit that's dragging things along, it does actually keep the intensity and does ultimately feel necessary to wrap things up. Considering how many times they'd mentioned this one key business. Though at the same time, Wybie is an original character from the movies and not the book, so...
I'm really sorry I didn't believe you about all this evil stuff.
And to the resolution, the real world now also brightly covered in both characters and lighting.
They tell me that you are Savior, Caroline.
After seeing all these characters looking so nightmarish as well, it's nice to see them in this more fun, final scene context.
You were right, Coraline. I really hate dirt.
All finished up with Wybie's long alluded to grandma finally making an appearance.
I'm Coraline Jones. I've got so much to tell you.
Yeah, I met your dead sister and saved her soul from a spider demon. You're welcome, nice to meet you. And so with that, we end the story off there. And that is Laika Studios' amazing Coraline. It was great revisiting this one and uncovering new details that I hadn't noticed in it too. I only recently saw this movie a few years back and love over-consuming all the Easter eggs and details. I wish movies did it more. You know, art in their movies and story and production design. I'm sure I still didn't catch every single Easter egg, but what I did catch was a solid reminder of just how great this movie is. Easily, this is one of the best animated movies of all time, and I can't wait to revisit it every Halloween. So if I find an excuse, maybe we'll come back to it next year. I don't know, we'll see. An amazing and a scene breakdown, that might be all we can do. For now though, I'd best finally end things off there. My name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this amazing episode. Do tell us your thoughts on Coraline. What a great movie, eh? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and more, and I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!